Hello and welcome to another class in our Zero to Hero Challenge. Today we'll be doing very similar to last class, which is a Vinyasa style yoga class with a lot of the more traditional kind of yoga poses. For the first 20 classes or so, 19 classes, we've exclusively been doing conditioning and stretching. And the reason why we've slowly built up with our conditioning and our stretching is so that classes like the last one we did are full vinyasa flow, where there's not as much time between poses. And like this one today will be so much easier. So much easier. Last class, I didn't really even warn you too much. So if you don't have a lot of yoga background, you might be at this class going, what am I doing here? And what have I got myself into? But if you found the last one a bit too much, the main thing to know about yoga is don't give up. That's it. Don't give up. Eventually you figure out where your feet are going and it all makes sense. When you're new, of course, it's not going to make sense. So I didn't go super slow during that last one, but keep going. Keep going. And so we'll have some weird ones today too. Actually, there's a couple of ones that are, let's just not mince words and say some of them are ridiculous. Okay, so I'll let you know what to do if it's just not possible. It's not like leg behind head or headstand or anything like that, but it's still, they can still be some pretty awkward things without having to get your limbs in a knot. So keep in mind, don't take yourself too seriously. You know what I mean? Like it's just a bunch of silly, it's like playing Twister yoga, honestly. So with that in mind, let's get started today doing, like I say, some more kind of traditional yoga poses in a flow vinyasa style class. Remember, you can take rest anytime. If you're here on your mat and you spend half of it eating potato chips, well, maybe don't do that. But if you show up at all, you're doing great, okay? So things that you might want to have today are a block and a strap. So not need to have, but nice to have. And that's pretty much it. Remember, don't take yourself too seriously. It's all just good, clean fun. We're getting stronger. We're here. We're showing up, and that's what counts. So let's get started today in Balasana Child's Pose, if that's accessible to you. If not, just cross-legged seated or whatever is accessible. So trying as best as we can to get the knees together and toes too. And if that is just not going to work, step the knees apart. Okay? When you're all set up, try to have your forehead on something, whether it's the floor or a block. And then arms can either be forward or along your sides, palms facing up. Take your few moments here to get all settled in. And letting go of anything you're holding on to that you don't need right now. Perhaps that's expectations, letting them go. Letting go of the word should. Starting to tune inward and recognizing how much good you're doing for yourself by showing up today. Starting to feel that positivity. And then take a few moments to set an intention for your practice. There's so many benefits to yoga. Just picking one of them. And from here, taking 3 slow, deep breaths through the nose. As big and expansive breaths as available in this posture. Taking all the time you need to get all 3 deep breaths complete. And when you're ready, Coming up through hands and knees, tuck the toes under, hips press up and back to a downward facing dog. Maybe walking it out a little bit. Maybe shifting hips from side to side. And then send the feet forward all the way to the top, landing in a forward fold, letting the head hang. And slowly, one vertebra at a time, ragdoll all the way up to standing in Tadasana Mountain Pose. And we'll get moving, starting with our classical sun salutations. Here we go. Inhale, raise the arms. Way up high, getting taller. On the exhale, gliding forward, nice and smooth, all the way down. For flat back, long through the neck. And exhale, down. Step the right foot back, gently lower the knee, untuck the toes, and sweep the arms up as the hips shift forward and down towards the earth. Floating the hands down through lunge, stepping it back through plank, and lowering Ashtanga Pranam. So hips high, knees, chest, chin, arching through the mid-back. And scoop through to the belly. Peel the chest off the floor for Bhujangasana, little baby version, baby cobra. And release, pressing up and back to downward facing dog. We're not here long this time. Right foot steps forward. Back knee gently lowers down, untucking those toes. Sweep the arms up for your Anjaneyasana low lunge pose. And float those hands down through lunge. This time back foot steps all the way forward into flat back, long neck. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up, reaching up high, getting taller. And exhale to a tall mountain. Again, other side. Inhale, arms go up. Exhale, gliding forward, nice and smooth. Inhale for flat back. Exhale, down. This time, left foot steps back. Back knee lowers down, untucking those toes, arms sweep up. Hips shifting forward and down. Heading down through lunge, back toes tuck under, front foot steps back to plank. And lowering knees, chest, chin, Ashtanga Pranam, 8-limb salutation. Scooping through to baby cobra. Release and pressing up and back to downward facing dog. And this time left foot steps forward, back knee lowers down, untucking those toes. Arms sweep up and sinking into those hips. Heading down through lunge, this time back foot steps forward, all the way into flat back. And forward fold. Inhale all the way up, reaching up high, getting taller. And release to Tadasana Mountain Pose. Heading into Sun Salutation A. Inhale, arms go up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale for flat back. Exhale, down, heading back through plank and lowering chaturanga. Inhale for cobra. And exhale, downward facing dog. Or child's pose, slowing down the breathing. Softening the neck. Shoulders away from the ears. And send the feet forward. Inhaling for flat back. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up, reaching up high, getting taller. And exhale to a tall mountain. And again, inhale, arms go up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale for flat back. Exhale down, heading back through plank and lowering chaturanga. Inhale, up. And exhale, downward facing dog. Slowing down the breathing through the nose and getting a little more of that weight forward into the palms, near the roots of the fingers, so that we don't dump into the wrists. Allowing the heels to melt down towards the floor. And send the feet forward all the way to the top. Inhaling for flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up, reaching up high, getting taller. And exhale to a tall mountain. One more. Inhale, arms go up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale for flat back. Exhale, down, heading back through plank and lowering chaturanga. Inhale, up. And exhale, downward facing dog. Shoulders away from the ears. Moving that weight forward into the palms. Feeling that stretch in the backs of the legs. And send the feet forward. Inhaling for flat back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale all the way up, reaching up high, getting taller. And exhale to a tall mountain. Preparing for sun salutation B. So feet are all the way together, heels and toes. Bending deeply. Sweep the arms for Utkatasana, powerful pose. Same choices for arms. On the exhale, gliding forward, nice and smooth. Inhale for flat back. Exhale, down, heading back through plank and lowering chaturanga. Inhale, up. And exhale, downward facing dog. Right foot steps forward behind the right wrist, back heel spins down. We come up for Virabhadasana 1, Warrior 1. And heading back down through lunge, plank and lower. Inhale, shoulders down. Exhale, downward dog. Other side, left foot steps forward, back heel spins down. Come on up. Warrior one. Down through lunge, plank, and lower. Inhale, up, and exhale. Downward dog or child's pose for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Send the feet forward, inhaling for flat back, and exhale, forward fold. Heels and toes together, bend the knees, sweep the arms, Utkatasana, powerful pose. And exhale to a tall mountain. Beginning our practice. Inhale, arms go up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale for flat back. Exhale down, heading back through plank and lowering chaturanga. Inhale up. And exhale, downward facing dog. From here, gently lower through hands and knees. We'll prepare for Anahatasana, heart chakra pose. So with the hips directly above the knees, we'll start to walk the hands forward, 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 reaching the forehead towards the floor or a block. If you're not feeling much of a stretch there, you can reach the chin to the floor. And just as the pose name suggests, we're melting the heart down towards the floor. To come out, belly scoops in, stepping those hands back to your hands and knees position. As always in our Vinyasa class, you have options. Either head into a child's pose for a bit of a rest or a downward dog, or if you're looking for extra challenge, head back through plank. Lowering chaturanga. Inhale up and exhale. Downward facing dog. From here, lowering through hands and knees once again, this time preparing for Shishulasana, dolphin pose. This is where it's nice to have a block, but you don't need one, just for alignment purposes. So we take the block and place the forearms on either side of that block, actually the hands, like the thumbs on the outside, so that your arms are like so. Then this helps keep the elbows beneath the shoulders and the wrists ahead of the elbows. From here, tuck the toes under, hips press up and back to like a baby down dog. If you've got a little bit of extra mobility, start to walk the toes towards your nose, the whole while pressing the heart towards the feet, feeling that nice strength happening between the shoulder blades. The gaze is between the elbows. Breathing deep. We're not here as long as we could be. This is a great one to hold for like a minute or more. But we won't do that today. If you've got your toes walked in, walk them back a little bit. Belly scoops in to gently lower your knees down to your mat. Either heading into a child's pose after that, which I recommend, or a downward dog. And if you're looking for extra challenge, head back through plank, lowering chaturanga. Inhale up. And exhale, downward facing dog. Once again, lowering through hands and knees, and this time lowering all the way onto your belly. Preparing for Naravirlasana, Sphinx pose. Bring the forearms to the floor, just like we did in dolphin pose, but this time our belly's on the floor. Hands are directly in front, I know you can't quite see mine because the camera cuts it off, but my wrists are directly in front of the elbows. Heart's melting forward and down. This one, the legs are active, glutes are active, toes are pointed, shoulders are back and down. We could do this one in like a yin style where we relax everything and let the heart melt forward. But for this one, we're not here too long. We'll use an active variation. To come out, we simply release. Pressing up and back to child's pose or downward facing dog, or for extra challenge, back through plank, lowering chaturanga. Inhale up and exhale, downward facing dog. Same thing again, lowering through hands and knees, all the way to your belly, or through chaturanga, whichever you prefer. Preparing for Shalabhasana locust pose. So for this one, we start on the belly, toes are pointed, legs squeezing together. And for this one, the arms are along the sides, palms facing up. Then, lifting the chin off the floor, and the shoulders as well, and also the legs. So not just the feet, we're not bending the knees, legs are straight. The arms are not on the floor either. The fingertips are reaching to the back wall. Our arms are wings, locust wings. Squeeze the legs together, shoulder blades together and down the back, and release. Pressing up and back to child's pose or downward dog, or into plank, lowering chaturanga. Inhale up and exhale, downward facing dog. From here, gently lowering all the way to seated. And bring the feet forward. Preparing for Vinyasa C. This is a really nice twisting posture. I'm going to show you a variation with a block. If you can do sort of a test with Dandasana staff pose. So if you have really long arms and your hands are on the floor and your arms are bent, you will not need this block. If your palms barely make it to the floor, there is a variation I like to use with a block. We start by keep the left leg in Dandasana staff pose and bend the right knee. The heel moves in towards the hip as much as possible. Then we take the block, place it behind you. That right arm goes on the block and it helps you stay upright. If you've got a really long arm, I should say if you have really long arms, because most of us don't just have like one really long arm, it's either one or it's either none or both. Anyways, pressing into the floor with the palm, cross, if available, the left arm all the way over. Now there's a tendency to hunch. If we do that, if you're hunching too much and you're like, I can't help it, then simply hug the knee in and lift up tall. So you can see, especially this side of my back, I'm almost trying to feel like I'm doing a cobra. And then my back will be straight. And then if I'm crossing, my shoulders are down and I'm pressing into the right palm to keep me perpendicular. Then I look over the right shoulder, breathing deep for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Inhale to lengthen, exhale, unravel, unwind, and release the leg. We could do a vinyasa between sides, or we could just skip that vinyasa, which I'm going to do right now. If you want to throw another one in there, feel free. And when you're ready, coming back to Dandasana staff pose. And if you're vinyasing, don't worry, you'll catch up. Otherwise, the right leg stays straight, left leg bends, and same arm as the first side. So once again, if your hand barely reaches the floor, This is an extra way to help really keep that torso perpendicular. If available, crossing the arm right over. And when you're ready, inhale to lengthen. Exhale, twisting to the left. Breathing deep for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, unravel and wind. Either head to child's pose or downward dog, or for extra challenge, heading back through plank, lowering chaturanga. Inhale up and exhale, downward facing dog. From here, let's take a baby warrior 1. So right foot steps forward behind the right wrist, back heel spins down to the floor. Coming up for like a little baby warrior 1. I'm just gonna grab my block here. You may want your block for this next one. So we're in our baby warrior 1. Straighten the front leg, find your block, and place the block on the, actually, depends on how flexible you are. If you're fairly tight, place it on the highest setting possible. Now, this block is going to go in front of the back leg. So if I have a nice wide stance, which I do, because it gives the hips more opportunity to be completely square and straight, then hands to the hips. What we're preparing for is Parivrita Trikonasana, revolved triangle. We'll inhale to lengthen. Exhale, forward fold. So I'm continuously pulling that right hip back, right hip back, right hip back, right hip back. Left hand onto the block. See how I'm not hunching, but I'm really trying to lengthen. I actually feel like I'm in a back bend right now. Then, if you're more flexible than this, you can lower the block down to here, or the floor. If you're making it to the floor, eventually that hand goes to the outside of that front foot. Okay? Then, the final variation of this pose, we inhale to lengthen even more, and then open up the right arm high to the sky for our full twist in our triangle. Breathing deep for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One more inhale to lengthen here. On the exhale, bring both hands down, squaring everything up. Then bring the hands to the hips and inhale, come on all the way up with a long, straight spine. Now, before we head into the other side, we'll go ahead and go into the next posture. And that's Parivrita Ardha Chandrasana, so revolved half moon pose. Now, remember at the beginning of this class, maybe I didn't mention it, some of these poses are a little ridiculous. This is one of them. So if this is challenging for you, don't give up or say mean things about yoga. It's meant to just be good, clean fun, okay? Let's give this a go. What we'll do is place our block forward in front of our front foot, okay? Now, the next step is we need to transfer all the weight onto our front foot. Okay, so I got all my weight onto my right leg, and then I'm going to lift up my back leg and then place my left hand on the block, and then revolving this. It's exactly the same as our revolved triangle, but our back leg's off the floor. So I'm raising my right arm up to the sky. Breathing deep for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Inhale to lengthen even more. Exhale, bring your hands down to square everything up and come on all the way up. See, this is good, clean fun. Let's head back to our baby warrior one. Heading down through lunge, maybe heading right to child's pose from here or a downward dog, only if you're looking for extra challenge, heading back through plank, lowering chaturanga, inhaling up, and exhale, downward facing dog. And it's times like these where it's good we only have 2 legs. Left foot, baby step forward, back heel spins down, we come up to our baby warrior one. Okay, now heading into Parivrita Trikonasana, revolved triangle. I'm just going to scooch my whole pose over to my right a little bit so that you can see both my feet. Once again, I like to have a nice wide stance so that it's easier to bring those hips square. Then bringing my block to the inside in line with my back foot. Hands to the hips. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, forward fold. Right hand to the block if you need it. If not, placing it on the outside of the front foot. Then opening up the left arm high to the sky. Breathing deep for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Inhale to lengthen even more. Exhale, square it all up. Hands to the hips. Inhale all the way up. Taking just a second. Then we'll move our block, preparing for that crazy pose. Parivrita Ardha Chandrasana. So revolved half moon pose. Transferring that weight forward onto the left leg. Then, ready? So then we lift the back leg up and we release the right hand down to the block. Holding here. When you feel stable and ready, open up the left arm for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Inhale to lengthen even more. Exhale, square it all up. Inhale, come all the way back up. Heading back to our baby warrior one. Heading down through lunge. Stepping it back to child's pose or downward dog, or for extra challenge, back through plank. Lowering chaturanga. Inhale, up. And exhale, downward dog or child's pose. From here, step the right foot forward and gently lower your back knee down to your mat, untucking the toes, and just come on up for a sec. Let's talk about this for a sec. So from here, we'll prepare for revolved side angle pose. So that's Parivrita Parshvakonasana, revolved extended side angle. This one is super duper challenging. So I've got this broken down into like 3 or 4 steps. And wherever you get stuck, just hold. You might want to block on the outside of your front foot. So when we start to twist, it'll be right there for you. Okay, so we start out in our Anjaneyasana low lunge pose. Easy enough. It gets ridiculous real soon here. Palms together, Anjaneyasana with a twist. To get into this, I actually don't feel like I'm fully into it. I like to release my hands so I can kind of, and then twist. I like to hold this twist for a little bit first before I go further. So opening up your heart to the sky, breathing deep. Holding on. Then, if you want to go further, the left hand moves down to your block. And you try to keep your shoulder on the outside of your knee. Top arm alongside the ear. Still opening up the heart to the sky. If you want to go further, tuck the back toes under and straighten through the back leg. If you want to go further still, spin the back heel down to the ground. We're not here long. Back heel spins up, knee gently lowers, bring the hands in to heart center, and square it all up. Woo. Crazy, hey? And eventually we do that without the block. So that's just good, clean fun. Parivrita Parsvakonasana. Then we have another side. So either take a full vinyasa or a downward dog or a child's pose. I'm going to go for a child's pose. Take a few moments completing your vinyasa or down dog or child's pose. And then we'll all meet in downward facing dog. Ready for the second side. So this time left foot steps forward, back knee lowers down, untucking the toes. Come on up. Getting your block all set up just in case. And one of the reasons why this is so hard is because it's one thing to, and we can even get into it now, head into your twist, like so. But when you have your elbow crossed over, you have leverage of your arm strength. There's not a whole lot of leverage when you release your top hand or your bottom hand down to the block, unless you've got enough mobility to really put pressure into that palm. So that's why it feels a bit harder. So if you want to go further, here we go. Bottom hand down and the top arm alongside your ear, opening up heart to the sky. If you want to go further, tuck those back toes under, lifting up the knee. And if you want to go further still, back heel spins down. To come out, back heel spins up, knee gently lowers, bring the hands into heart center, and square it all up. Yeah. So much fun. Then we head down through lunge and remembering your options. I like a fetal position after that one. If you want that extra challenge, go ahead and head into your vinyasa. Otherwise, into downward dog or maybe a child's pose for just a couple deep breaths. Next up, we start on our bellies. So that's a good start. From here, lowering all the way down. We actually don't have very many poses left. So from here, heading into Dhanurasana bow pose. This one can also be a little bit elusive, a little bit challenging. So if you're not able to get into it, if you're not able to find the feet, come into Sphinx pose, okay? We'll give it a go though. So we start by bending the knees and we try to find the ankles or the feet, okay? One at a time usually works better. Then, trying to get the feet together, lift up. So feet are together. We're not trying to get the legs super high. What we're trying to do is, see how I'm rocking? Trying not to do that. Okay, so holding, and I can't do it while I'm talking. Try to hold steady. And release. So that one with bow pose, you're trying to find that perfect balance of like an archer's bow, right? There's a lot of strength and mobility that needs to happen with the strings of the bow and the wood itself of the bow, lots of, and then the archer. So that precision amount of pull and push to maintain that balance is what we're looking for. From here, heading back to downward facing dog, or for extra challenge, throw in a full vinyasa. From here, lowering through hands and knees, and we'll prepare for Gomukhasana cow face pose. For this one, you may want to block as well. What we do is we start by bringing the left knee completely behind the right knee, okay? And then I like to kind of shimmy and scooch my knees all the way together. Then we step the feet apart and gently lower onto your block or the floor. Now, there's a little bit of a controversial topic with yoga. What arm goes up in cow face pose? So I'm going to talk you through same arm as leg on top. I'll tell you why in a sec. Right arm goes up, sending it back. Left arm goes back, sending it up. The reason why is because what we're doing now, I'm trying to find the hands behind you, is a modification. The full variation, you're actually sitting on the feet with your legs crossed. It's unbelievably awkward. Your hips are actually askew. Slowly release, slowly, slowly. And if you were to do opposite arms, it's really not, it does not feel like it's a thing at all. I may do a video about that one day, but for now, just go with me on that one. And we'll head out by coming back through hands and knees and all the way up and back to downward facing dog. Other side, lowering through hands and knees. Left knee crosses behind right. Step the feet apart and lowering back onto your block or the floor. And then we've got same arm as leg, so left arm goes up, sending it back. Right arm goes back, sending it up. Breathing deep. And slowly, slowly, slowly release. Heading all the way up through hands and knees and back to downward facing dog. From here, gently lower through hands and knees. And we'll prepare for Ustrasana camel pose. This is another one that's really elusive for a lot of us unless you're fairly flexible in the back. This one, I like to work on not just back flexibility, but shoulder flexibility, leg and glute strength, and even core strength. So for this one, unless you're very flexible, tuck the toes under. It is a modification, but there's this myth that modifications are no good, but really it makes the poses accessible. I modify stuff all the time. So with the toes tucked under, we're trying to get our hands to the heels. So you can see how the heels are closer if the toes are tucked under, okay? From here, we're trying to keep our hips stuck in space. The legs don't move. So often we lean back to catch the heels. Try not to. Try to keep the hips shifting forward, forward, forward. If you don't feel comfortable doing this without a teacher live in front of you, there is no shame in that. Just stay here, lifting up tall. If you want to go further, feel like you're going up and over a high jump bar. So belly scoops in, we lift the ribs up, and we go up and over that high jump bar. Finding those heels or the ankles. Hips shift forward, forward, forward. And it's actually harder to keep the neck square, so allow the head to lower back. Breathing deep. To come out, hands to the sacrum, belly scoops in to come all the way back, and we head directly into child's pose. Keep going, keep going, keep going, all the way into your child's pose. Nice and slow. Give your back a few moments after that one. And then either stay in child's pose or head into downward dog, or for extra challenge, heading back through plank, lowering chaturanga, inhaling up, and exhale, downward facing dog. here, lowering all the way to seated, and then laying all the way back, preparing for Urdhva Dhanurasana, which is upward facing bow. So that last one that we did was belly on the floor, and we were in a bit of a back bend. This one is sometimes known as full wheel pose, but that's actually not the correct term for it. There is a wheel posture in yoga, and it's called Chakrasana, which is a backward somersault. So once you get into more advanced yoga, it becomes confusing if you're calling two things wheel. So this one is upward facing bow. And in gymnastics, it's known as bridge, where you're on your hands and your feet and you're in a big back bend. This is one of those ones where it is really good to have a live teacher unless you know what you're doing. If you don't feel comfortable doing this one, just repeat Sphinx once again, or Cobra. So this one requires a lot of mobility in the shoulders, strength in the shoulders, and flexibility and strength in the back body. So again, if you don't feel comfortable, just skip this one out. It's a great opportunity for rest, okay? If you're heading for Urdhva Dhanurasana, laying all the way back, and step the feet apart, slightly wider than hips width apart. If you can do this pose, but it's not super accessible, step the feet like mat width apart. It makes it a bit easier. And we bring the hands beneath the shoulders, not the neck, but the shoulders. And then press up to the top of the head and hold there for 2 deep breaths. For 1 and 2. And then we push up to Urdhva Dhanurasana. And hold. This is a nice one to start to straighten through the legs to get that shoulder mobility we were talking about, to bring the shoulders above the wrists. That's already 4. And 5. Lowering back to the head. And then all the way down. And hug the knees in. Maybe a little rock from side to side. And then when you're ready, coming all the way back up to seated. And either take a downward dog or a child's pose, or for extra challenge, heading back through plank, lowering chaturanga. Inhaling up. And exhale, downward facing dog. From here, lowering all the way to seated in Dandasana staff pose. And we'll prepare for Bharata Vajrasana A pose, say Bhardwaj's pose. It's very challenging to say. There's a couple different variations on saying, on pronunciation, but I was taught Bharata Vajrasana. So, or like how I used to say it, that twisting pose. So anyways, you don't have to memorize this. But what we do is swing both the legs over to the left. Okay, so both legs go to the left. Now my right toes are tucking under just nicely under my left thigh. And my knees are kind of like mat width apart and they're facing forward. Keep both sit bones on the floor. That left one will like to pop up. Try to bring it down. So your left leg is kind of like in hero pose. And the right leg is kind of like it would be in lotus posture if it was up here. Which, hint, hint, that's where we go eventually. But for today, keeping it tucked under that supporting leg, lifting up tall. From here, we're going to twist to the right. So away from the legs, lifting up tall, left hand moves to the outside of the right leg, and the right arm tries to find the inside of the left leg. We twist to the right, but like most twists, or unlike most twists, this one we look to the left. So you feel kind of sassy, like kind of tango style, you know, not like this, but like the chin's level, but you're still looking away from the twist, which is unusual for most twists. And it just feels different. Breathing deep. That's already 4. And 5. One more inhale to lengthen. Exhale, unraveling and unwinding. And return to Dandasana staff pose. Preparing for the other side, Bharata Vajrasana A, swing both legs to the right with the toes of the left foot is tucking underneath the thigh of the right leg. Your knees are a little less than mat width apart. Lifting up tall, but they're straight ahead in front of you. We twist to the left, but really grounding through that right sit bone. So twisting to the left, my right hand moves to the outside of my left leg, and the left hand tries to sneak and find the inside of the right thigh. Of course, if you're not finding it, that's fine. It's totally fine. Lifting up tall, and then, so we're twisting to the left, but our head looks to the right. The trick is to not tip the head, but keep the chin level. So this is a bit of an exercise for the neck, and also grounding through that right sit bone. It's going to want to pop up off the floor. Don't let it. Breathing deep for 3, 4, and 5. One more. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, unraveling, unwinding. Returning to Dandasana staff pose. From here, either just wait or head into downward dog, or for extra challenge, heading into a full vinyasa, heading back through plank and lowering chaturanga. Inhaling up and exhale, downward facing dog. It's our last downward dog of the whole class. And then gently lower to seated, returning all the way to Dandasana staff pose. So feet are forward, lifting up tall. Our final pose of today's class is Paschimottanasana. That's our seated forward bend pose, or the direct translation is west stretching pose. So we lift up tall. Remember not to pull the flesh of the buttocks away. If anything, lift up and make sure you're like evenly on the squish so that your tendons are safe before you do your forward fold. It'll protect your hamstrings, tendons. Lifting up nice and tall, scoop the belly on an inhale. On the exhale, reaching for shins, ankles, toes, whatever you can reach. And if you do have the feet, then you can start to widen the elbows and lengthen through the spine. So we're trying to reach the chin towards the toes. Breathing deep for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, come on all the way up. And you're done. Preparing for Shavasana, final resting pose. A really well-deserved one. This class was filled with so many different postures, really trying to make your body go in so many different directions all in one class. So get extra comfy today. Finding your blankies, whatever you need. As always, if your back needs a little bit of extra support today, feel free to keep those knees bent with the feet on the floor. But go ahead and lay all the way back, getting yourself all set up and closing the eyes. Softening everything, but especially through the neck and the shoulders and all the way down the arms. Softening through the face, softening around the eyes, and even the muscle between the eyes. Just letting it all go. And starting to come back. Wiggle the fingers and the toes. And gently roll your head from side to side. And reaching your arms above head on the floor, give yourself a big stretch, feeling totally refreshed. And bending your knees one at a time. And gently roll over to the right side. Give yourself a moment to pause there as you come back. And slowly start to press yourself all the way up to a comfortable seated position, taking all the time you need. And when you arrive, palms facing up on the knees, inhale, sitting up tall, and exhale, softly close the eyes. Taking those final moments to thank yourself for showing up to your practice today, for taking care of you, and taking a moment for an additional thought for someone else who might need it today. And slowly open the eyes. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today, and have a really, really good rest of your day.